Warhammer is a game, and this is meant to be a fun hobby, but over the last few years, especially with 9th edition and the power creep and the rules bloat, unfortunately playing Warhammer has become not a fun hobby. But I'm really excited because I think 10th edition is going to save Warhammer. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Richard here from Crash Course Hobbies. I just stayed up and watched the reveal for the Warhammer community stream, and I want to talk to you guys about why I think 10th edition is what Warhammer needs. Now look, I'm sure a lot of you have probably watched the stream like I did, and if you didn't, there's definitely going to be other channels that are better to actually get all of the concrete information. I want to talk about what my experience in watching the stream is, and personally how I feel about Warhammer right now, and why I think 10th edition is going to solve a lot of the big problems we have. Look, if you played games of 40k, you know that they can take a really long time, and it tends to be kind of a slog to get through. A 2,000 point game can easily go 4 or 5 hours, especially if you're playing an army that you're not super up to speed on the rules with, and you have to consult your cheat sheets and your book and all this other stuff. I mean, for me personally, I'll print out, a cheat sheet for every unit, as well as a big piece of paper with stratagems and all that other kind of stuff. It takes up half of the board when we're playing, and it's just a big mess, and a lot of times I'm forgetting rules or other things. And this kind of led me and one of my friends to try one-page rules a couple of times, and I had way more fun playing one-page rules than I ever had playing Warhammer. The only downside to that being was that the rules for one-page rules just felt a little, watered down. It lacked a lot of the flavor that made my characters feel special and cool, and my army to have unique rules and abilities. And what I think that Warhammer and Games Workshop is doing here with 10th edition is really bringing what makes kind of both of these systems awesome and putting them into one. The new simplified data sheets are awesome. I love the fact that all of the special abilities for each unit will now be on the data sheet instead of being in, removing the psychic phase and putting their psychic abilities just on the data sheet. I think is super smart. And streamlining just the individual stat lines to put strength on each individual weapon, put attacks on each individual weapon. This just makes sense. It's going to make looking at a data card way less like looking at an eye chart, and something that you can easily identify what you're doing, what you're rolling, what does your character have. And all this stuff is going to speed up the game, I think, dramatically. Also really, really love the new inclusion of the objective control stat, which I think is going to get rid of a lot of the headache of which units have OBSEC, which don't, and now assigning individual point values to individual models and units really does make a lot of sense, and it would be cool to see certain units now get their value out of how much objective control points they have versus other units that maybe are more specially designed towards other things. Another big addition that 10th is supposedly bringing is reactions. Now, one of the worst parts about playing a game of 40k is that you sit there oftentimes for 20 to 30 minutes doing nothing but rolling saves because your opponent is taking a whole turn before you get to do anything. Now, I would have personally really liked to have seen alternating activations be revealed, and that's probably not coming with 10th, but if they do end up doing alternating activations, I would love that, because I think that just makes for a much more strategic war game. And it's also just way less boring when you get to go and then they go, and then you're already planning your next move while they're moving their unit. And when you have all this time where they're moving every single unit, shooting every single unit, all this stuff, you just kind of zone out after a while. Even the most well-intentioned player is going to just get sick of it. So being able to have more things that you can do when it's not your turn is another fantastic addition. Now, another thing that's really interesting here is that clearly GW has been looking at the success of one-page rules lately, because they've definitely taken several pages out of their book. Pun kind of intended. Talking about putting all of the core stratagems into a single pool, which is great, very similar to Age of Sigmar. And then each individual army having around 6 stratagems that you would take, and that way all of your army's rules can be on one piece of paper, which is great because it's going to help with us having to go back and reference our codexes and all this other kind of stuff. Being able to minimize the time you're spending looking up your rules and time actually playing the game is just a really, really great thing. And that brings me to one of the best parts of the reveal, is that the core rules, and all the indexes for all the armies are going to be available on day one
for free,
which is great for people like me who like to dabble in lots of different armies, because the only thing keeping me from playing my orcs right now is that I didn't want to go out and buy a codex or trying other armies or things like that, you know, because it's just stupid and expensive, and tons of other systems like Parabellum's Conquest, one-page rules, like all these things are making all the rules free online, and the miniatures are the selling point for GW. They always have been. So there's really no reason for them to gatekeep you from being able to access trying other stuff. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious they're going to sell more models if you can play with them without having to waste money on buying books. You're just going to use that money to buy models anyways. And that's GW's bread and butter, let's be real. So by them making all the rules free and having these indexes on day one, super, super smart by them. And I think they're probably going to see more sales overall because of it. Now, because they are indexing everything, this is a great way, an opportunity for them to totally rebalance the game. And they talked about reducing the lethality and the power creep. And one suspicion that I had, vehicles are coming back in a big way. Now, the funny thing about that is obviously with sort of the shift to the meta being infantry heavy in 9th, they just didn't sell a lot of vehicles, let's be honest. And so now, by having a new system that makes vehicles very usable again, they're definitely going to start to see some of those kits selling. And a lot of that, again, comes back to the ability to completely rebalance the game by releasing indexes for every faction on day one. And they talk about how AP and weapon strength and all this stuff got really crazy up until 9th, which is very true. And now certain vehicles and certain things may be up to toughness 11, they said on stream. So this could make for some really cool battles now, finally getting vehicles on the board again, finally having them be relevant. And so this is something that I'm just really excited to see. Also, another really cool thing is this new combat patrol mode that they've announced, which essentially is you can build or use anything that comes in a single combat patrol and put it up against another combat patrol. Now, I wonder if this was originally going to be something that they had designed when these boxes were coming out, or if it's an afterthought, because while they were built around 500 points, there may be some balance issues between boxes. It's interesting because how would you balance that with the indexes and the new changes to the game, but basing it off of boxes that were created a couple years back? So not quite sure how they'll balance it point-wise and gameplay-wise, but what they did say about the game mode is that it's meant to be like an introductory, even more simple version of playing Warhammer 40k, and I'm all for that, because trying to teach a new player how to play Warhammer, or somebody who's maybe a little bit more casual with it, if you try to show them 40k, they just kind of start to fizz and pop and tune out pretty much immediately. So rather than playing against somebody who's slack-jawed and not wanting to be there, I really like the idea of this more digestible, more beginner-friendly version of Warhammer, and the fact that you can pick up an all-in-one cohesive box for a faction. For somebody like me who likes to basically collect all of them and want all the toys, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with this new game mode. And look, we can say all kinds of stuff about our Games Workshop overlords and about the greedy habits and the milking us for cash and overcharging for stuff and everything else like that. And I'm not saying that I am a total GW fanboy or anything like that, because there's definitely things about GW that I don't like. I think they need to be crediting their artists. I think they need to, well, now they are making their rules free, but you know, there were things that they were definitely gouging us in certain areas. But I do think that based on this reveal, they are taking a major turn to the right direction. Now, whether that's out of the goodness of their hearts or because they're being forced to by people voting with their wallets over time, honestly, I don't really care the reason. It's just the fact that it's happening is good. And I think as a collective whole, as gamers, we should just be appreciative that we're getting positive changes from Games Workshop and give them a chance to see where things go. Look, we saw a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, some seriously awesome model reveals with the new Terminators, the updated Termagants, which the detail was great, but like, I want to see the Screamer Killer. I want to see some of the more exciting NID models, and I'm sure we will. And I'm personally really excited for the 10th edition box, because just, I mean, that's what we all really want to see. Let's see that 10th edition box. But I'm more excited for the changes to the rules of 40k than really anything right now, because honestly, for me, I was just kind of getting burned out of Warhammer. I like playing with my models on the table. I like creating immersive scenes and hanging out with my friends and throwing dice, but I just didn't like the game. I wasn't having fun playing Warhammer. I liked playing one-page rules. I like playing Conquest, but I love the world and the universe of Warhammer. They just didn't make the game fun to play. So I have a lot of hope for 10th edition, and I really think that they're taking it in the right direction, if nothing else. So I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, I just really am pumped up for this and wanted to make a quick video of my thoughts of what we know so far about 10th edition. Again, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Be sure to continue supporting your local game stores. Hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.